So the first part of two-point perspective that I'm going to walk you through is the most difficult part of two-point perspective, and that's doing the technical perspective or theoretical perspective. So I'm going to start off with an empty page. Let's look down here and see what we're going to do. So the first thing is I have my empty page. I am going to use a ruler to do my horizon line. And we want our horizon line this time to be at the top of the page. You can check out my other videos that explain when you move the cube up and down how your horizon line can change. And the most important thing about this step is that I really want my horizon line to be horizontal. Sometimes I have to measure from the top in order to make sure. This time I'm actually just eyeballing it. And then because it's two-point perspective, we are going to use 2 vanishing points. On this small of a page, what I have to do is I have to put my vanishing points at the very outermost edges. I'm still going to see some distortion in the cube because ideally we would have a much longer page. I don't have a camera that can do that, so I put a page that's really small here, and we're going to put our vanishing points on the horizon line on the page. But again, if you're at home and you have a really long table, you might want to tape 2 or 3 pieces of paper together, extend your horizon line onto those other pages, and put your vanishing points a little bit farther apart. For this purpose, I'm going to make a little arrow. Think of it like it's half of an X. And this little edge right here, where my half of my X and my horizon line meet, that is going to be my vanishing point. 1, and then over here, I'm going to do my second vanishing point right at the edge of this page too. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it this way because the next thing I want to teach you in another video is how to do an ellipse in two-point perspective. I'm actually going to make my cube perfectly centered between these 2 vanishing points. You can either do this mathematically with your ruler. I have this handy sewing ruler here, and it's got a 0 in the center. And I know that this page is 14 inches across. So if I line up 7 inches on this side and 7 inches on this side, my 0 is going to be my midway point. So I'm going to put a little dash on my horizon line. And that's going to be my midway point between my 2 vanishing points. For your vanishing points, you can label them VP1 and 2. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my ruler, and I'm going to line it up with that midway point. And somewhere along the page, I'm going to draw the very front line of the cube. I'm going to put it about midway through. And for this size of a page, you could do really any height, but I'm going to make this one 2 inches tall. And then you can see this is going to be the front corner. I'm going to actually show you on a plastic cube. That's the front corner of your cube. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that those front corners connect to both vanishing points. Sometimes I like to, and you know what, when I check that out, it doesn't look exactly vertical. No, it looks okay. If it's diagonal, it's going to throw everything off. So I'm going to make sure that it's perfectly vertical. Sometimes a little bit of precision in the beginning can actually help you out. Okay, so next I'm going to line up my ruler with the top of that angle and my vanishing point and connect it. Then I'm going to do the top of that angle and the second vanishing point and connect those 2. Next, I'm going to do the bottom of that corner and make an angle that connects to the vanishing point here. And if your ruler slides, like mine just did, fix it. Don't just keep going. So you want to clean up any mistakes that might happen. They're going to happen, you're human. They happen to me all the time, and I've been drawing every day for like 20 years. Okay, so there I have now this line, this line, this line. Okay, so I've got 5 lines, I need to put in where those planes end. So I've got to do a vertical line here and a vertical line there. This one, oftentimes people will say, well, this was 2 inches tall. I can make this 2 inches back in space. And if I measure that, you can see that what I would wind up with is a long rectangular plane. It doesn't look like a cube. Instead, what I like to do is I like to line up my ruler with the front edge, make sure that it's nice and vertical so that it's parallel, and then I'm going to slide it back. Now you can see here, if my ruler is the 4th line of this plane, that's a tall, narrow box. If I slide it back around here, it's starting to look like a cube. And if I take it back too far, then it looks really long, like this could be a long strip mall or the side of a semi-truck. So instead, I'm going to go back, slide it back slowly, and using my ruler as my 4th line, I'm going to envision this whole plane. And somewhere right around there, it starts to look like a cube, and then it looks like too much. So right about here looks accurate to me. You want to make sure that this line is perfectly parallel to this front line, that it's a true vertical. If you need to switch to your larger ruler and line up one of these lines with the edge of your paper as a crosshair or use a T-square, you can do that too. Now, theoretically, if my vanishing points are perfectly equally distant from the line that I made in the middle here, I could measure this and duplicate it over here. Instead of measuring this length, what I like to do is still eyeball it. So I'm going to line up my ruler here with my front corner line, which is perfectly vertical. Again, this is a small, narrow plane. That would be like a tall skyscraper. Here it looks a little bit too long, and so right about here I think it looks about equal to what I'm seeing on the other side. It might not be perfectly equal. It's my best guess. And now I have 2 planes completely done on my front side of my cube. I don't have the top or the bottom. I don't have the back sides of the cube. So an easy way to think about this is that every time you have a vertical line in 2-point perspective cubes, you want to make sure that they're connected to both vanishing points. So these 2 are connected to this vanishing point. The middle one is also connected to this second vanishing point, as is this one. But this one is not connected to that vanishing point. And this vertical is not connected to that vanishing point. So those are my next steps. I like to do the top first. That way you can see, I'll actually erase those little arrows so you can see a little bit better. If I do the top one first, you'll be able to see what my cube looks like if it were a solid cube, as opposed to a transparent cube, which is the step that we're going to go to next. So one of the things that you'll find when you're smaller, like usually under the age of 12, is that using a ruler is really difficult. These rulers in particular are very slippery. So you'll notice that I'm bracing my ruler in the middle, or I'm moving my hand along the ruler as I'm using it. And that helps me to stabilize it while I'm drawing a long line. Otherwise, when I'm drawing a long line, the ruler becomes destabilized and I usually get a crooked line. Okay, so there you have a solid cube, and you can see the front 2 planes and the top plane. But now I'm going to make it a transparent cube by taking the bottom intersection of that vertical. Oops. Let's get a new pencil. By taking the bottom intersection of this vertical and connecting it to the opposite vanishing point too. Now this one, if you want to, you could draw it with a dashed line to show that it's transparent and moving back in space. Okay, there's one. The next one, I'm going to do this corner to the opposite vanishing point. And it always takes a little bit of practice to get that ruler lined up. And this one you can do a dashed line too. And now I want to make sure that where those two lines intersect, that I really have a corner drawn in there. So you can see that I'm missing the line right at that spot. So I'm going to line my ruler up again. And I'm going to really connect. So here I have a corner. That's my back bottom corner right there. And here I have the top back corner. And those two need to be connected with a vertical line also. I can see that my measurements were just slightly off where I eyeballed things, and so this line is appearing just ever so slightly to the left. It's because I'm human, I'm not a computer. This is not computer-aided design, so sometimes everything's going to be just slightly shifted. And that line that I put in looks diagonal to me, so let's straighten that up. I'm going to try it again. Still looks a little bit diagonal. It could be that that front line was a little bit off, or oftentimes the back line is the one that's off, and that's because this intersection doesn't always occur directly below that intersection. So let's see if I can get it looking better. If not, no, I can't, but that's okay. So you guys can see that even though I've done this a million times, I'm making a ton of mistakes too, and it's just little slight human errors. Usually what happens is that all of these lines are potentially slightly off of our vanishing points, and so all those little hairline mistakes kind of accumulate at the end, and sometimes you can see a little bit of a flaw. It's okay though, because you're not a computer, and neither am I. So now our 2-point perspective cube is done. Hopefully that's going to help you out a lot. If you need to review this one, do it several times. Usually I find that practicing it makes it make more sense and makes it stick, because there are a lot of steps in this one. So do it a couple times and hopefully you'll be able to do this and teach other people if you want to. Thank you all so much for watching. More videos are coming soon, so if you wish to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and do that. And also you can check out my website, lzmstudio.com.